All right, let's talk about a topic that you've probably heard of, but maybe never got the straight story on. Neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP for short. We're going to cut through all the hype and get to the core of it, because the big idea here is actually pretty simple. Excellence isn't magic. It's a pattern of thinking and communicating that, with the right tools, anyone can learn.
So, here's our roadmap. First, we'll dive into the one big question that started this whole field. Then, we're going to take that complicated-sounding name and break it down into simple parts. After that, we'll look at the four main pillars of NLP, see how they actually work in the real world, and then we'll wrap it all up with the core philosophy behind everything.
So, let's start right at the beginning. The entire world of NLP really just boils down to one powerful question. What's the difference that makes the difference? How do successful people actually do what they do?
You know, this is the exact question that got the ball rolling for the founders, John Grinder and Richard Bandler, way back in the mid-70s. They looked at super successful people and weren't just satisfied with admiring them. They wanted to pop the hood and figure out how the engine worked. They wanted to reverse engineer success itself. They basically became detectives of excellence. By watching these incredibly effective people, they started to realize that success wasn't just some random fluke. No, it was a system. And if it's a system, that means you can find the patterns, write them down, and teach them to other people.
And that's really what NLP became. It's not some super rigid, formal science. Think of it more like a practical toolkit. It's a whole collection of strategies and techniques, all built on a few core ideas about how our minds work and how we create our own results in the world.
Okay, I know what you might be thinking. Neuro-linguistic programming. It sounds a little intimidating, maybe a bit complicated, but honestly, it's a surprisingly literal description of what's going on. Let's just pull it apart piece by piece.
It all comes down to three parts. Neuro is all about the raw data coming in, how we see, hear, feel, taste, and smell the world around us. Linguistic is how we make sense of all that data, using language, both the words we say out loud and the ones we say to ourselves. And programming? Well, that's the result, are repeatable habits and patterns of behavior. And just like computer software, those programs can be updated.
All right, so we've got the name down. Now let's dig into the big ideas, the foundational principles that really make NLP work in practice.
Think of these four pillars as a constant loop for getting things done effectively. It all starts with having a crystal clear outcome. You have to know exactly what you're aiming for. Then you build rapport to create trust and open communication. Next, you use your sensory acuity, which is just a fancy way of saying you pay super close attention to the feedback you're getting. And finally, you have flexibility, the willingness to change your approach over and over again until you hit that outcome.
Okay, theory is great and all, but what does this stuff actually look like in the real world? Let's walk through a couple of examples so you can really see these ideas in action.
Let's start with rapport. Now, in NLP, this isn't just about being friendly or getting people to like you. It's much deeper. It's about building a genuine bridge of understanding. So picture this, a teacher trying to get through to a really frustrated student.
See what the teacher is doing here? They're not arguing. They're not pushing back. They're listening for the positive intention behind the negative words. When the student says, "This is all theory," the teacher hears, "I want something practical." By reflecting that hidden value back to the student, they're building a real connection. That's rapport in action.
NLP is also hugely focused on how the language we use inside our own heads actually shapes our physical reality. In fact, let's try a quick little thought experiment right now. Just play along with me here.
So as you're listening to that, what's happening? Your brain isn't just processing words. It's actually simulating an experience. The language is creating a sensory reality in your mind, the sight, the feel, even the smell of that biscuit. That's the neuro-linguistic connection right there.
And here's the really wild part. Your body is having a real physical reaction. Your mouth might actually be watering. The language, your internal self-talk, is directly programming a neurological response. You haven't seen a biscuit, you haven't touched one, but your body is literally getting ready to eat.
This simple little exercise is so powerful because it shows you the undeniable link between our thoughts, our language, and our physical state. It proves that our internal dialogue isn't just some passive commentary. It's an active command that programs our body and our feelings.
Okay, so we've looked under the hood, we've seen a couple of examples, but what's the big takeaway from all of this? Let's just pull the camera back for a second and look at the bigger picture of what NLP is really all about.
This right here is probably the most important thing to get about NLP. It's not a rigid, follow-the-steps-exactly method. It's way better to think of it as a humanistic philosophy that comes with a very flexible set of tools you can use to become more self-aware and to communicate more effectively.
At the end of the day, the core idea is incredibly empowering. You are in the driver's seat of your own mind. It suggests that once you start to understand the programs that are running your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, you gain the power to consciously rewrite them. And when you can do that, you can start achieving the results you really want in your life.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought to chew on. If your patterns of thinking really are like software that you can update, what's the very first upgrade you'd want to install?